Thank you, Alan. Now let's look at our pipeline and how it's structured through to 2030, anchored by our lead indication that is for diabetic foot infections. Starting with diabetic foot ulcer infections, we're conducting trials in Indonesia, where we're currently generating phase 3 data towards a 155 patient readout. Now, positive Indonesian phase 3 data, together with subsequent regulatory approval, would support the start of our commercialization activities, not only in Indonesia, but extending that to ASEAN and to MENA. Importantly, this Indonesian trial data is being used as the foundation of our global registration strategy, feeding into registration beyond Indonesia and through the ASEAN countries and into MENA. That same 327 topical program also extends beyond diabetic foot ulcer infections to DFI and ABSSSI, which is acute bacterial soft skin and skin structure infections in Australia and the USA. We'll be running additional clinical trials for registration purposes and generating data to support this in Australia and hopefully gain US approval at the end of 2027. Next, with regard to our Recce 327 intravenous program, phase 1 is complete, and the drug was shown to be extremely safe and well tolerated in over 120 healthy volunteers. And now we are positioned for potential phase 2 trials. In addition to that, we're also developing our Recce 327 inhaled formulation that will target lung infections, specifically hospital-acquired pneumonia and ventilated-assisted pneumonia. We're currently in preclinical activities and look confidently towards bringing that program into the human trials in the next 12 months. We also have our Civil and Department of War programs focused on burn wound infections in the USA. This includes preclinical studies of Recce 327 gel with the Department of War progressing to registration trial for burn wounds in the not too distant future. And finally, on the science side, our mechanism of action paper is in process of being prepared for publication in a preeminent peer-reviewed journal that will highlight the incredible innovation that underlies the science across all of these programs. Now, building on that pipeline, let's zoom out to the bigger picture. Our Indonesian regulatory approval will be used as a foundation for a cascading global approval strategy across multiple regions, as I just mentioned. Starting from that Indonesian approval, we see 4 expansion vectors: expansion into ASEAN and MENA, expansion to Australia and New Zealand, and then expansion to the USA and Department of Defense, and global approvals more broadly. Underpinning this regional expansion is our platform's versatility across 3 delivery formats and new indications. With regard to the gel, covering DFI, ABSSSI, and burns. IV will cover complicated urinary tract infections, IV sepsis, and IV single dosing for UTI. And with respect to the aerosol formalization, as I mentioned, this will cover hospital-acquired pneumonia, ventilator-assisted pneumonia, non-TB mycobacteria, and intranasal sinusitis. So the strategic story here is one regulatory approval in Indonesia doesn't just open one market. It's designed to cascade into approvals across multiple regions, as I've mentioned here, while the underlying platform expands into new formats and indications well beyond our lead DFI infection program. So that global strategy is bearing fruit. Recce has signed a non-binding term sheet with a leading Middle Eastern pharmaceutical company for a 10-year exclusive multi-country licensing agreement covering R327G across the MENA regions. Now, there are 4 things I want to highlight here. First, this unlocks the MENA diabetes market. The scale of the opportunity here is really significant. The MENA region has a diabetes prevalence of about 17.5%, representing over 84 million people. And in Saudi Arabia alone, 30% of the adult population have been diagnosed with diabetes. The term sheet coverage spans not only the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the GCC countries, but also United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, and Qatar. Secondly, this validates premium pricing. The non-binding term sheet stipulates a proposed selling price of USD $1,500 per treatment, or a price mutually agreed with the KSA regulatory authority. However, under the terms, Recce is expected to receive 30% of the next selling price and an additional 6% royalty on net sales. Third, there's data harmonization from Indonesia. Our successful data readouts in Indonesia, together with subsequent regulatory approval, support commercialization there, and importantly, may support similar regulatory approval and commercialization in other ASEAN markets. Now, pending the positive phase 3 results from our ongoing Indonesian trial, we don't expect additional clinical trials will be required to support a marketing authorization application in Saudi Arabia. And finally, this is a commercial partnership with a leading company. Our partner is recognized as one of the leading pharmaceutical companies in the MENA region, with a strong sales portfolio across dermatology, endocrinology, and infectious diseases, and established market access throughout the region, positioning them well to accelerate the adoption and distribution of our Recce 327 gel. In short, this non-binding term sheet is a positive step towards the potential commercialization of our R327 gel in one of the world's most significant diabetes markets. And with that, I'll hand it back to James.